Can you even imagine buying your first home, a symbol of freedom and everything you've worked for, only to have your own parents sue you for 70% of its value? That's right, sue me. They claimed I was stealing my sister's future. This isn't just a story about money. It's about betrayal and what happens when the people who are supposed to protect you try to take everything away. My name is Amanda, and I'm 29 years old. Since I was 16, I've been working. Every spare moment, every odd job, I never asked for a dime from my parents. I put myself through college, paid off every single student loan, and finally saved enough for a down payment on a small house. That moment, when I got the keys in my hand, it should have been the proudest of my life. Instead, it became the start of a nightmare. I found myself staring at court papers, my own parents demanding a piece of my dream. I grew up in a typical-looking middle-class family in Minneapolis. My dad, John, was an insurance adjuster, and my mom, Karen, a part-time receptionist. Then there was me and my sister Emma, 8 years younger. From the outside, we were normal. But behind closed doors, money was a constant ugly argument. Bills piled up. Hushed conversations stopped the second I walked into a room. Looking back, it wasn't about a lack of income. It was about terrible financial management. But what truly hurt, what festered in my heart even as a child, was the glaring difference in how my parents treated Emma and me. Emma, they declared, was the special one, the child with natural talent, destined for greatness.
Me?
The message was loud and clear, even if never spoken. I was ordinary, average, not worth investing in. By 14, I'd internalized it. I became the practical one, the responsible one. I started helping Mrs. Peterson, our elderly neighbor, with chores. $10 an hour, it felt like a fortune. That money was my first taste of independence. School supplies, clothes, even an ice cream with friends. My parents never asked where these things came from. They just seemed relieved not to have to provide them. When I turned 16, I got my first real job at Sweet Dreams Bakery. I'd walk there right after school, work until closing, then come home to homework. Diane, the owner, became a mentor. She taught me more than baking. She taught me about saving, about responsibility. The day I got my first paycheck, I was buzzing. I imagined opening a savings account, dreaming of college. But my dad sat me down at the kitchen table. He slid a calculator toward me. Now that you're earning, you need to contribute to the household, he said. 30% of your earnings comes to us, for rent, food, utilities. I just stared. Disbelief. But, Dad, I'm only 16. I thought I should be saving for college. My mom laughed from the doorway. A cold, dismissive sound. Amanda, be realistic. With your grades, you'd be better off learning a trade. Besides, Emma will need a college fund. She has a real future ahead of her. That 30% rule stuck throughout high school. I never missed a payment. Meanwhile, Emma got piano lessons, ballet classes, a redecorated room. My room was still stuck in childhood. My routine was brutal. School, work, homework until midnight, double shifts on weekends. Every rare new shirt I bought was met with my mom's judgment. Another new shirt, Amanda? You should be more responsible. This, from the woman who'd just spent $300 on a ballet costume for Emma. My junior year, I secretly picked up a second job at the library. I told my parents it was for extra spending money. In reality, it was my secret college fund. The library paid less, but it offered something invaluable. Quiet hours to study. My grades soared. Mrs. Peterson, my sweet neighbor, noticed how utterly exhausted I was one day. Amanda, dear, you're working yourself to the bone. What are you saving for that requires so much sacrifice? When I told her, tears welled in her eyes. Your parents should be supporting your dreams, not the other way around. From then on, she paid me extra, insisting I put it directly into my college fund. By senior year, I had a 3.8 GPA and nearly $8,000 saved. My guidance counselor championed me, helping me apply for scholarships. My own family's reaction to my college acceptance letters was lukewarm, at best. College is expensive, my father warned. Don't come crying to us when you can't afford it. I promised them I wouldn't. I never had. When State University offered a partial academic scholarship, it was a mix of pride and terror. 60% covered, but that 40% plus room and board? My $8,000 would barely cover the first year. At dinner, I excitedly shared the news. My dad just grunted. State University? That's expensive for what it is. You know, we can't help you with that. I'm not asking for help, I shot back. I have my scholarship and savings. I'll figure out the rest. My mom sighed dramatically. I don't understand why you need to go at all. You have a perfectly good job at the bakery. Diane would probably make you assistant manager. Because I want more than that, Mom. I want a career, not just a job. Then the hammer dropped. And what about your contribution to this household? My father demanded. How are we supposed to make up that shortfall? It hit me then, a gut-wrenching clarity. They weren't teaching me responsibility. They were using me to supplement their budget, so they could afford Emma's activities. I wasn't a daughter being guided to independence. I was an income source, a perpetual ating. I'm sorry, I said, my voice shaking with a resolve I didn't know I had. But I'm going to college. I've worked for this opportunity, and I'm taking it. The weeks before I left were filled with frigid silence and passive-aggressive comments. They made it feel like I was abandoning the family. Only Emma, at 11, seemed genuinely happy. Move-in day? Solo. My parents couldn't take time off. So I packed what I could and took the bus. My roommate, Jennifer, arrived with her entire family, who set up her side of the room with coordinated decor. I unpacked my secondhand sheets and a single-framed photo of Emma and me, in silence. That first night, listening to Jennifer on the phone with her parents, I cried. Not because I miss my family, but because I finally understood how profoundly abnormal my relationship with them truly was. College was a financial brutal reality. I got a server job within the first week. 5 to 11 p.m., straight from classes. Weekends were double shifts. My tiny dorm room became both sanctuary and prison. Cup noodles were my primary food source because they cost less than $1. I tracked every single penny. Jennifer eventually moved out, claiming my late-night studying and early morning alarms were disrupting her. She was replaced by Jessica, another scholarship student who worked. Jessica understood. My parents help when they can, she told me one night, but there are 5 kids in my family. I'm the first to go to college, so I'm kind of the experiment. At least they support you emotionally. I blurted out, bitterness seeping into my voice. Jessica looked at me, thoughtfully. Your family situation sounds really toxic, Amanda. Have you ever talked to someone about it? Like a therapist? I laughed, a harsh sound. With what time or money? Therapy is a luxury I can't afford. Despite everything, I excelled. My finance classes felt real, practical. Professors noticed my work ethic. After my junior year, I got an internship at Meridian Financial Services. That internship was a turning point. For the first time, my contributions were valued. My supervisor, Michael, was impressed. The pay allowed me to save a small cushion. Throughout college, contact with my parents was minimal and always about money. Never, how are you? Or how are classes? Always, Emma needs new point shoes for ballet. They're $200. Or, the refrigerator broke. We need $400 for repairs. I sent money when I could justify it as helping Emma, but each request left me feeling used, not loved. In my senior year, I met Tyler. Smart, kind, from a loving family. He was everything I hadn't experienced. When he invited me home for Thanksgiving, I witnessed for the first time what a supportive family looked like. His parents asked about my classes, my goals, my opinions. They were genuinely interested. That night, Tyler found me crying. Because I didn't know families could be like yours, I confessed. I didn't know parents could love their children without conditions. That weekend changed something fundamental in me. I deserved better. I graduated cum laude with a bachelor's in finance. No one from my family was there. Emma wanted to come, but my parents claimed they couldn't afford the 3-hour drive. Michael, my internship supervisor, offered me a full-time position. $50,000 a year. It felt astronomical. My first big decision was housing. My colleagues rented trendy apartments. I opted for a tiny studio, 45 minutes by public transport. Rent was 20% of my income, allowing me to focus on student loans and saving for a house. I made a meticulous 5-year plan. I remained frugal. Brown-bag lunches, discount groceries, public transport. Colleagues invited me out, but each $60 dinner or $300 getaway felt like a direct threat to my goals. Jessica remained my closest friend. She landed a teaching job and understood. Most people our age aren't thinking about retirement accounts or mortgage rates, she'd say, laughing. Most people our age didn't have to pay rent to their parents at 16, I'd reply. Tyler and I eventually decided to remain friends. He respected my goals, but struggled with my relentless drive. You deserve to enjoy life now, he'd argue. Not just prepare for some future that might never come. But for me, financial security was everything. It was worth more than temporary pleasures. Within 18 months, I was promoted. Salary jumped to $62,000. I continued my frugal habits, funneling the extra income to my student loans. By the end of my 3rd year, I'd paid off $40,000 in student debt, built a $12,000 emergency fund, and was seriously saving for a house down payment. It felt monumental. Yet I had no one to truly share it with. My family relationship remained strained, one-sided. Emma was now in high school, excelling in music. My parents still spoke of her potential with grandiose expectations. Emma's piano teacher thinks she could get into Juilliard, my mom announced during a rare call. Of course, the application process and audition prep will be expensive. The unspoken request hung heavy. I'd already sent them $3,000 that year for Emma's activities. Each time, I told myself it was for Emma, but the line was blurring. Mom, I said carefully, I have my own financial goals. I can't be Emma's college fund. The silence was frigid. I see your sister's future means nothing to you now that you have your fancy job and city apartment. The guilt trip was familiar, but this time, something in me resisted. That's not fair. I've helped a lot, but I can't be expected to finance another person's education when I just finished paying for my own. The conversation ended with her calling me selfish and cold. Those accusations hurt, but I held firm. 2 weeks later, my dad called. More direct. Emma got accepted to Westfield University. $40,000 a year. We need to know how much you can contribute. Westfield, a prestigious private university. My head spun. The assumption. The amount. $160,000 total, Dad. I don't have that kind of money to give. You make good money now. You could take out a loan to help your sister. That's what family does. The irony of his words was a bitter taste in my mouth. Family helps each other when they can, I retorted. No one helped me with my education. That was different. You were always independent. Because I wasn't given a choice. The conversation dissolved into accusations, old resentments. He hung up after telling me I was breaking my mother's heart. Despite the emotional toll, I stuck to my plan. When Emma herself called to ask about college funding, I tried a different approach. I can't pay your tuition, Emma. But I can help you apply for scholarships, look into more affordable schools, and teach you how to manage money so you can be independent like I had to be. Her response surprised me. I never asked them to put this on you, Amanda. I know how hard you worked for everything you have. That was the first genuine connection we'd had in years. We started talking regularly. I became her sounding board and advisor. I helped her apply for scholarships and financial aid, and she got a substantial package from a state university, just like mine. My parents were disappointed, of course, seeing it as settling. By my 5th year at Meridian, now a senior financial analyst earning $78,000, I had saved enough for a 20% down payment on a modest home. Years of sacrifice. Discipline. It was finally paying off. What I didn't anticipate was how my family would react. House hunting was thrilling, terrifying. I wanted a small, well-maintained bungalow, under $250,000, good public transport. Natalie, my real estate agent, was patient. Most first-time buyers your age are looking for condos or continuing to rent, she said. It's impressive you're in a position to buy a house outright. I smiled, a rare moment of pride. I've been working toward this since I was 16. We found it a 1920s bungalow. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a small kitchen, tiny backyard. $220,000. Perfect. Signing the mortgage papers was surreal. The loan officer remarked on my solid financial foundation. Most people your age have minimal credit history and mountains of student debt. I paid off my student loans 3 years ago, I said, a tremor of pride in my voice. The day I received the keys, I stood alone in the empty living room. Overcome. This house wasn't just financial. It was psychological. Tangible proof I had overcome my upbringing. I had security. Jessica and Tyler helped me move in, bringing champagne and housewarming gifts. We sat on the floor, eating pizza. To Amanda, Jessica toasted, who worked harder than anyone I know to get here. To having roots, Tyler added. Something you deserve more than anyone. After a few weeks, I decided to invite my family over. Despite everything, this was a milestone I wanted to share. Maybe, I thought naively, seeing my success would make them proud. They arrived on a Saturday. My father critically eyed the exterior. "It's small," was his first comment. "Perfect size for me," I replied, trying to hold on to my positive mood. My mother walked through the rooms with an expression of faint distaste. "This neighborhood isn't very upscale, is it?" Emma, now in her second year of college, seemed genuinely happy. "I think it's awesome, Amanda. You worked so hard for this." I'd made lunch, hoping for a pleasant atmosphere, a new chapter. As we sat at my new dining table, the conversation was superficial at first. Then, my mother put down her fork. "Emma has some news she needs to share." Emma looked at her plate, uncomfortable. I might have to take a break from school next semester." "What? Why?" I asked, concerned. "The scholarship wasn't renewed," she explained quietly. "And my student loan application was denied because of Dad's credit score." "We've had some financial setbacks," my father interjected defensively. "Medical bills, car repairs, you know how it is." "So, what's the plan?" I asked, a knot tightening in my stomach. "Well," my mother began, her tone shifting to that familiar, insidious demand. "We thought, given your new purchase, that you must be in a very comfortable financial position. I just bought a house. I'm not exactly flush with cash right now. But surely you must have savings left. Or you could take out a home equity loan," my father suggested. "Emma needs about $20,000 for this year." I stared. Disbelief. "I used all my savings for the down payment. And I am not going to borrow against the house I just bought." "So, you're just going to let your sister drop out of college?" My mother's voice rose. "After all we've done for you." The sheer absurdity. It left me speechless. "What exactly have you done for me?" "I've been working and supporting myself since I was 16. I paid for my own education. I bought this house entirely on my own. We raised you," my father thundered. "We put a roof over your head. A roof I paid rent for as a teenager." I countered. The argument escalated fast. They called me selfish, accused me of forgetting where I came from, of abandoning family. I listed the years of financial support I'd provided, the lack of support I'd received. "You've always been jealous of Emma," my mother declared. "This is your way of punishing her for being more talented." "This has nothing to do with Emma," I insisted. "This is about boundaries and reasonable expectations." Emma, who'd been silent, finally spoke. "Please stop fighting. I'll figure something out. I can take a semester off and work full-time." "Absolutely not," my mother snapped. "You are not throwing away your future because your sister is too selfish to help." I turned to Emma directly. "I can help you look into additional scholarship options, maybe work-study programs. There are alternatives." "The only alternative is for you to step up and do the right thing," my father insisted. "Family takes care of family. I've been taking care of this family financially since I was a teenager." I yelled, my patience completely gone. "I am done being your aide." My father stood abruptly. "If that's how you feel, then perhaps we need to reconsider what family means. You clearly have the resources to help, but are choosing not to. This house represents years of sacrifice and hard work, I said, my voice low but firm. I am not jeopardizing that. That house should be helping secure Emma's future, not sitting here as a monument to your selfishness, my mother declared. As they left, my father delivered a parting shot that would haunt me. This is not over, Amanda. If you won't do the right thing voluntarily, there are other ways to ensure family obligations are met. I dismissed it as an empty threat, dramatic words in the heat of an argument. I was so wrong. 3 weeks later, an envelope arrived from the county court. Inside was a summons. I was being sued by John and Karen Collins, my parents, for 70% of the value of my home, approximately $154,000. The complaint alleged I had a moral and implied financial obligation to support Emma's education and that buying my home instead constituted financial abandonment and theft of family resources. It actually used the phrase stealing her sister's future. I sat on my living room floor, papers scattered around me, utterly unable to process it. This couldn't be real. Parents don't sue their children over money. They don't drag family disputes into courtrooms. Yet the official seal, the case number, it was no joke. My hands shook as I dialed their number, hoping against hope this was some elaborate scare tactic. My father answered. Yes, Dad. I just received court papers. Are you and Mom actually suing me? We are simply seeking what is fair, he replied, his tone eerily calm. You refused to help your sister voluntarily, so we are pursuing legal means. This is insane. You can't possibly think a court will force me to give you my house money. Our lawyer thinks we have a case, based on family obligation and implied contract. You benefited from family resources growing up, now you owe a return on that investment. The conversation was surreal. He outlined their position as if it were perfectly reasonable. Dad, please. This will destroy any relationship we still have. I pleaded. That is your choice, Amanda. Do the right thing, and we can put this behind us. After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence for nearly an hour before calling Jessica. She arrived 30 minutes later with wine and fierce determination. This cannot be legal, she insisted, reading through the documents. They can't just claim a right to your house. The next morning, I called in sick for the first time in my career and started searching for a lawyer. By noon, I had an appointment with Linda Cohen, a family law attorney. Linda's office was warm, inviting, a stark contrast to the cold reality I was living. After reviewing the papers, she looked at me with a mix of sympathy and professional assessment. I've seen some contentious family disputes in 20 years, but parents suing a child for buying their own home? That's certainly unique. So they can't actually take 70% of my house? I asked, my voice barely a whisper.
No, Amanda.
Their case has virtually no legal merit. There's no legal principle that would entitle parents to their adult child's assets based on an implied obligation to a sibling, she explained. The problem is, defending yourself will still cost money and emotional energy. We discussed strategy. Linda told me to gather all evidence of my financial independence, tax returns showing I hadn't been a dependent since 18, proof of self-funding my education, and documentation of all the money I'd given them over the years. Their case hinges on the idea that you owe them something. We need to demonstrate that, if anything, the balance is tilted in the other direction. The next few weeks were a blur of legal prep, anxiety, and shattered sleep. My work suffered. My supervisor, Michael, noticed. When I finally explained, his reaction was validating. Amanda, what your parents are doing is not normal. It's exploitative and abusive. Hearing someone in a position of authority name it so clearly was both painful and liberating. For years, I'd normalized their behavior, made excuses, accepted blame. Now, outsiders were confirming what I only recently acknowledged. My relationship with my parents was fundamentally unhealthy. Support came from unexpected places. Colleagues, neighbors, even Tyler, despite our complicated history, became a steady presence, helping me organize records, offering emotional support. Jessica urged me to see a therapist. This is trauma, Amanda. You need professional help. I found Dr. Russell, specializing in family estrangement and financial abuse. Our sessions helped me recognize manipulation patterns and unravel the crippling guilt I'd carried since childhood. Your parents created a narrative where your role was to provide, not to be provided for, Dr. Russell explained. Children are not supposed to be financial assets to their parents. That reverses the natural order of nurturing. As the court date neared, I got a call from Emma. We hadn't spoken since the disastrous lunch. "Amanda, I just found out about the lawsuit," she said, her voice shaking. "I had no idea they were doing this. I never asked them to sue you." "You didn't know?" I asked, surprised.
No.
"I would never want this. I'm so sorry they're putting you through this." Her call reinforced what Linda had advised: separate my feelings about Emma from my parents. Emma was as much a victim of their dysfunctional expectations as I was. The lawsuit consumed me. Nightmares about becoming homeless, about judges ordering me to hand over my keys. During the day, I obsessively checked my bank accounts. Linda reassured me repeatedly. The law simply doesn't work the way your parents think it does. Still, the mere existence of the lawsuit felt like a profound violation. My home, a symbol of security, had become a source of intense anxiety. My parents, who should have celebrated my milestone, were trying to take it. Linda helped me compile evidence, bank statements showing transfers totaling over $15,000 to them over the past decade. Emma provided a written statement, confirming she hadn't asked for or expected my financial support for her education. "We have a strong case, factually and legally," Linda assured me the night before. "Try to get some rest." Rest, however, was elusive. I dreaded facing my parents across a courtroom, our private dysfunction on public display, the final severance of our connection formalized in court records. The courthouse was an imposing stone building. I arrived early with Linda, dressed in a conservative navy suit, trying to project a confidence I didn't feel. We sat at the defendant's table. My parents arrived with their lawyer, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses. They didn't acknowledge me. My mother stared straight ahead. My father whispered to their lawyer. The physical proximity, the emotional chasm, it was surreal. Judge Harriet Wilson entered. She was in her 60s, silver-haired, with an expression that said she'd seen it all. "I've been on the bench for 17 years, she began, looking over her reading glasses at both parties. "And I must say, this is one of the more unusual family disputes I have encountered. Mr. and Mrs. Collins, you are suing your daughter for 70% of the value of her home to pay for your younger daughter's college education. Is that correct?" My parents' lawyer stood. "Yes, Your Honor. My clients believe their elder daughter has a moral obligation to support her sister's education, particularly given the family's financial contributions to her upbringing." Judge Wilson's expression remained neutral, but her tone sharpened. "Moral obligations and legal obligations are not always the same thing, Counselor. Please explain the legal basis for your claim." What followed was a tortuous argument about implied family contracts and conditional support during minority. The lawyer claimed that by accepting parental support as a child, I had implicitly agreed to a reciprocal obligation to support my sister. Linda took notes calmly, squeezing my arm when particularly outrageous claims were made. When it was her turn, Linda rose with composed confidence. "Your Honor, this case has no basis in family law or contract law. Miss Collins was a minor child under her parents' care, which is a legal obligation parents voluntarily assume when they have children. Children do not contract to receive basic necessities from their parents." She methodically dismantled their arguments, presenting documentation of my financial independence since age 16, tax returns, proof of self-financing my education, and bank records showing the substantial financial assistance I had already provided to my family. Far from taking from the family, Miss Collins has contributed over $15,000 to her parents and sister since she was 18, money she was under no legal obligation to provide. The judge reviewed the documents with interest. "Mr. and Mrs. Collins, were you aware of these financial contributions from your daughter?" My father shifted uncomfortably. "Those were gifts, not related to this matter." $15,000 in gifts seems quite generous from someone you are characterizing as selfish and unwilling to support family, Judge Wilson observed dryly. My mother spoke for the first time. That money was nothing compared to what Emma needs. Amanda has a good job and just bought a house. She clearly has resources she is withholding. The judge turned to me directly. Miss Collins, what is your current financial situation after purchasing your home? With Linda's subtle nod, I explained my careful budgeting, the years of saving, my current mortgage obligations. I am not wealthy, Your Honor. I worked multiple jobs through college, paid off my student loans through strict budgeting, and saved for years to afford a modest home. I simply cannot afford to pay for another person's entire education without jeopardizing my own financial security. Judge Wilson nodded thoughtfully. Mr. and Mrs. Collins, what financial planning did you do for your younger daughter's education? My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. We expected scholarships would cover most costs, my father finally admitted. Emma is very talented. And did you not make the same expectation for your elder daughter's education? The judge pressed. Amanda was always independent, my mother said dismissively. She made her own way. Because I was given no choice, I interjected instantly, regretting breaking protocol. The judge gave me a measured look, but didn't reprimand me. Instead, she directed her next question to my parents. Did you contribute financially to Miss Collins's college education? We could not afford to at the time, my father replied. Yet you expected her to afford her sister's education now. Judge Wilson's tone made her skepticism crystal clear. The proceedings continued. My parents' lawyer tried to frame it as a simple family dispute where the court should enforce fairness. Linda countered by emphasizing the legal autonomy of adult children. As arguments wound down, the courtroom door opened quietly. Emma slipped in, taking a seat in the back row. Our eyes met briefly. A mix of embarrassment and determination flashed in her expression. After a final round of statements, Judge Wilson called for a 15-minute recess. As we waited, Emma approached our table, hesitantly. Can I speak to the judge? She asked Linda. About what? Linda inquired cautiously. About how I never asked for any of this. And I don't want Amanda to pay for my education this way. Linda explained the judge might not allow it, but advised Emma to stay close. When Judge Wilson returned, she surprised everyone by calling Emma forward. I understand you are Emma Collins, the younger sister whose education is at the center of this dispute. Do you wish to make a statement to the court? Emma stood, nervously, at the center of the courtroom. Yes, Your Honor. I want to make clear that I never asked my parents to sue my sister. I didn't know about this lawsuit until recently. I would never want Amanda to be forced to pay for my education, especially not by giving up her home that she worked so hard to buy. My mother made a small protest, which the judge silenced with a stern look. Emma continued, gaining confidence. Amanda has always helped me when she could. She helped me apply for scholarships and financial aid. She taught me how to budget and manage money, skills our parents never taught either of us. I have options for continuing my education without taking anything from my sister. Judge Wilson thanked Emma, then delivered her ruling. Having reviewed all evidence and testimony, I find the plaintiff's claim wholly without merit. There is no legal basis for forcing an adult child to finance a sibling's education, regardless of any perceived moral obligation. Furthermore, the evidence clearly shows that Miss Amanda Collins has already provided substantial financial support to her family over the years, far beyond any reasonable expectation. She addressed my parents directly. Mr. and Mrs. Collins, the court is troubled by your apparent differential treatment of your daughters. You seem to have expected financial independence from one, while assuming ongoing support for the other. This is not a matter for legal remedy, but rather family counseling. The judge dismissed the case, and in a final, unexpected move, she ordered my parents to pay my legal fees, stating their lawsuit was frivolous and potentially vexatious. As the courtroom cleared, I remained seated, overwhelmed. The legal battle was over, but the emotional damage felt irreparable. My parents left without speaking to me, their rigid backs and quickened pace conveying their fury. Emma approached tentatively. Amanda, I am so sorry about all of this. It's not your fault, I assured her. Can we talk? Maybe get coffee or something? I nodded, not trusting myself to speak more. Whatever came next, nothing would ever be the same. The lawsuit had forced a confrontation with decades of dysfunction that could no longer be ignored. Linda gathered our materials. Family estrangement is painful, Amanda, she observed gently. But sometimes it's necessary for healing to begin. You've legally established your right to boundaries. Now you can start the process of emotional boundaries as well. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt a complex mix of vindication, grief, and, surprisingly, hope. For the first time, I had publicly stood up for myself against my parents' demands. The victory felt hollow, given the circumstances, but it was a crucial first step toward a healthier future. The days that followed were a blur of conflicting emotions. Relief that my home was safe, mixed with profound sadness about my family. I took a week off work to process. I didn't hear from my parents, nor did I expect to. The courtroom had made explicit what had been implicit for years. Our relationship was fundamentally broken, built on obligation rather than love. The lawsuit didn't create this dysfunction. It merely exposed it in the harshest possible light. Linda had recommended continued therapy, advice I took seriously. Dr. Russell helped me understand that grief for a relationship that never existed is still valid grief. You are mourning the parents you deserved, but never had, she explained. That loss is real, even if the relationship itself was unhealthy. We worked on internal boundaries, the emotional counterpart to the legal ones. I learned to recognize and challenge the voice of guilt instilled in me since childhood, the belief that I was selfish for having needs of my own. 2 weeks after the court case, Emma and I met for coffee at a neutral location. The conversation was awkward at first. I moved out of Mom and Dad's house, she said, after preliminary small talk. I'm staying with my friend Sophia until I figure things out. Are you still in school? I asked. She nodded. I reduced my course load and got a job at the campus bookstore. It will take me longer to graduate, but I'll get there. I also applied for additional scholarships, like you suggested. I'm proud of you, Emma, I said, meaning it. Taking control of your own path isn't easy. I had a good example, she replied, meeting my eyes directly. I always admired how independent you were, even though I didn't understand until recently that it wasn't by choice. That conversation marked the beginning of a new relationship between us, one based on mutual respect rather than the competitive dynamic our parents had fostered. As months passed, I slowly rebuilt my life around truth, not family mythology. My home, now truly mine, became a haven. I painted walls, planted a garden, furnished rooms with pieces that brought me joy. Each improvement felt like an affirmation of my right to create security for myself. Work provided another source of stability. Michael, understanding what I'd been through, offered me more responsibilities, leading to another promotion. The increased income allowed me to start investing, furthering my long-term financial security. Jessica remained my steadfast friend. You know what amazes me most about you? She said one Saturday as we installed kitchen shelves. Your capacity for joy, despite everything. You never became bitter. Her observation surprised me, but she was right. Despite the dysfunction, I hadn't allowed it to define my entire worldview. I still found pleasure in small things, still believed in healthy relationships. Inspired by my journey, I started a blog about financial independence for young adults from difficult family backgrounds. The response was overwhelming. What started as a personal outlet evolved into an online support community, a powerful reminder that shared experience diminishes isolation. 6 months after the court case, I received a handwritten letter from my mother. It sat unopened on my counter for 3 days. Amanda, it began. The past months have given me time to reflect on our relationship and my role as your mother. While I still believe families should support each other, I recognize now that we placed unfair burdens on you from a young age. This realization has been painful to acknowledge. The letter continued, an awkward but seemingly genuine attempt at an apology, stopping short of full responsibility, but acknowledging mistakes. She requested a meeting to begin healing our family, a phrase that triggered both hope and skepticism. After discussing it with Dr. Russell, I agreed to meet my mother at a cafe. The meeting was tense, uncomfortable. "Your father still believes we were right," she admitted. "But I miss having you in my life." "I cannot return to the old dynamic," I told her firmly. "Any relationship we have moving forward has to be based on mutual respect, not obligation." She nodded slowly. "I'm not sure what that looks like, but I would like to try." This tentative reconnection was neither a fairy tale reconciliation nor a complete failure. Over subsequent months, we established a careful, limited relationship. My father remained distant, unwilling or unable to acknowledge the damage done, though his active hostility ceased. A year after buying my house, I hosted a small anniversary gathering. Emma attended, bringing her new boyfriend and a homemade cake. Jessica and Tyler came, along with colleagues who had supported me. My mother declined, with a polite note, perhaps understanding that full family reconciliation, if it ever came, was still far in the future. As I looked around at the people who had chosen to be in my life, who valued me for who I was rather than what I could provide, I recognized the profound shift in my understanding of family. Family wasn't just biological connection or obligation. It was a community built on mutual support and genuine care. This house, once a point of contention, was now unquestionably mine. Not just legally, but emotionally. Each mortgage payment an affirmation. Each home improvement, a declaration of my right to create stability for myself. The most valuable lesson from this painful journey was understanding the difference between guilt and responsibility. For years, I had carried crippling guilt about not meeting my parents' expectations, about prioritizing my own needs, about setting boundaries. Therapy and experience taught me that responsibility to oneself is not selfishness, but self-preservation. That boundaries are not walls, but healthy definitions of where one person ends and another begins. I still have moments of doubt and sadness, days when I mourn the family relationships I'll never have. But these episodes are less frequent, less intense. I've built a life aligned with my own values, not imposed expectations. As I stand in my kitchen today, preparing for another day in the home I fought to protect, I realize true freedom comes not from external validation, but from internal conviction. My parents may never fully understand or accept my choices, but their understanding is no longer necessary for my peace. This house is more than wooden beams and mortgage payments. It represents my right to define my own path, to establish healthy boundaries, and to create security on my own terms. The journey here was longer, harder, and more painful than it ever should have been. But that only makes the achievement more meaningful. Call to action asterisk. What would you do if faced with a choice between family expectations and your own well-being? Have you ever had to set such difficult boundaries with loved ones? I would absolutely love to hear your stories and your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with others who might need to hear that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's absolutely necessary. Thank you for listening.
Take care.